This morning, I'm delighted to introduce you to Grant Crossley. Grant is a Chartered Surveyor working for BLB Surveyors Limited. Grant is also involved with Shoreham Academy as one of our business ambassadors. So we have a group of people, and I know we'd only really just started it up, hadn't we, Grant, before we went through this lockdown situation.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah, people like Grant who come from a professional background are working with Mr. Coop and the senior team and us in the careers department at Shoreham Academy to really help us understand what's going on out there in the world. And you're going to be so valuable to us as we move forward, Grant, because obviously things may look a little bit different. So thank you so much for everything you do for the Academy, and thanks for your time today.
Yeah, no problem, Becky.
So the first thing I'd really like to ask you is, what is a surveyor, and what's a typical day like for you in your job?
So that's a good question. There's really no typical day really as a consultant. Every day is different. Your time and tasks can vary depending on the project demands. My time is generally split between the office, construction sites, and client offices. But say an example. To give you an understanding, a lot of my time is managing my inbox, phone calls and meetings, catching up with my department to look into priorities and deadlines that we set for the day. That can involve preparing fee proposals for new projects, progress and design team meetings with architects, engineers and building contractors, or contract administration duties. So whereby we're managing construction contracts on site.
So very varied in the sense that you're not just sat in an office in front of a computer. You get to go out and meet lots of different people and go and see those sites. So are you seeing those sites, those building sites? So for a young person who's maybe driven past a construction that's happening locally to them, and they've seen maybe the groundwork, or they've seen, you know, part of the building going up, at what stage do you get involved in something like that as a surveyor?
Yeah, right from day one, really, Becky. A lot of the time we will meet with the client and develop their brief, look at their budgets, look at what they're trying to achieve. Then we'll work alongside them to develop a team. So we'll bring on board an architect, structural engineer, and other external consultants. And then we'll help them run through the process. There's the RIBA plan and work stages. So we'll help run through them with them, get them planning, get other statutory consents of building regulations, draw up their specification and manage the works on site.
So there's an element of big element of project management there, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I started my career initially as a chartered building surveyor, and then I've kind of evolved more into the specialist side of project management. So I work with clients that don't have, or a lot of my clients that don't have the skill set or project managers in-house. So I kind of work client side, basically hold their hand and you know, help them achieve their desires and their aspirations.
Sounds really interesting. And for young people, even if you haven't thought about the industry sector, maybe the elements of the job might appeal to you, especially, as you say, with project management, you know, being able to organise and manage and support a whole project and work with clients. That might be something that appeals to our young people. That leads me on really nicely, actually, Grant, to the skills that you use, because you'll know as one of our ambassadors that we work with 8 core skills at the Academy to encourage our young people to develop their soft skills. Because obviously, as you know, you've gone through your learning as a surveyor. When you go to a company, they'll teach you the job.
Yes.
What you're taking in with you is the core of yourself, how you develop your character. So having looked at that list, which 3 of those skills would you say are the most relevant and useful in your job, and why?
Yeah, I think leadership, definitely. So we're kind of, you know, supporting, encouraging and motivating the team all to achieve that shared goal. Listening, definitely, you know, listening to the client's brief, developing their brief, so you're receiving or retaining a lot of information throughout the project. And definitely teamwork's got to be up there, working as a team to towards that final goal.
And that's the internal team of BLB Surveyors, but also, as you said, bringing in external people.
Yeah, definitely. I meet a lot of like-minded people, so that's great. You get out and meet new people. You can learn about, depending on what projects you've got. We delivered a winery for a client, and it's quite interesting to understand their business and how their business works, and kind of we get entwined with their business, and we're both looking at the end goal, which is good. I think it's also, I personally appreciate seeing dilapidated properties or disused buildings, bringing them back to life. That's it's great to see that.
So you get a real sense of satisfaction because you see the end result.
Absolutely, yes, yeah.
What got you into this? Is this something you'd always thought you wanted to do, or did you sort of through an interesting path?
Yeah, I took a bit of a non-conventional route, I suppose. I initially trained and obtained a carpentry apprenticeship after I left school. A few years after that, being on the tools, I went back to university to train as a building surveyor part-time, so I was still doing my carpentry and qualified in building surveying. And then as years have gone on, I've advanced more into project management. Got qualified with the RICS. But I do think that having a trade background in my role is great. It gives you the ability to appreciate the technical aspects of materials and also the construction process and how kind of building components go together.
So that's interesting for young people to hear, is that, so you went down one route to do an apprenticeship to become a qualified carpenter. Yeah. And then, so what made you change? What made you think, actually, was it that you didn't want to do that, or that you'd seen that there was more to this role as a surveyor?
Yeah, I do you know what? I still do a bit of carpentry in my spare time, working, on my, I suppose it's more DIY nowadays, working on my own house. But it's a good question, really. I think I was looking a bit further ahead in my career. I'd already achieved the carpentry qualification, and I thought, right, okay, what's the next stage? And kind of building surveying for me was the next step in my career. That's generally the reason why I kind of jumped ship, really.
And as pretty much everybody I've interviewed has said, Grant, you never stop learning, do you? You're always learning something new. It doesn't stop when you leave college or you finish an apprenticeship, or even when you finish a degree. You're always learning.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely learning all the time. New things, new legislation comes in. We as professionals have to get on board with that and learn different aspects.
Good advice. Keep learning. Actually, that leads on really well to my last question, Grant. As you know, we've got young people who pretty much finished their education, may or may not be thinking about university, but have been in lockdown and may still be in partial lockdown. Is there any advice you could give them, or anything you could suggest they could be doing with this valuable time that they've got now that might advance them if they're interested in an industry like yours?
Yeah, I think you should be researching the industry that you want to enter. Set yourself some short-term and long-term goals. Definitely start to build your own network. Perhaps sign up to a business platform such as LinkedIn. Work experience would be great outside this pandemic. I mean, to give you an example, when I looked to change from carpentry into building surveying, I wrote off to about 35 companies. I got one answer, one back, and kind of kept on pursuing them. And eventually, they gave me a week's work experience. And yeah, so it's hard, it's tough to get in there, but definitely work experience would assist. I think you should be reading around some industry subjects and some hot topics.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, familiarise yourself with, if you're looking to go into our industry, you know, planning policies, building regulations. Um, yeah, there's a dictionary of building, perhaps, that may be the first start. You know, get used to the terminology that we use. So there's quite a few there, definitely.
Excellent. And what I'll do is, students, I'll get some links from Grant, and we'll put them at the end of the video so that you've got some things to click on and look at. You talked about reading and keeping up to date with what's going on in the industry. We're encouraging all our students to create a LinkedIn profile over this next couple of weeks, so that they can start to, first of all, develop their professional persona, but also to understand the difference between professional and personal social media and how you can use them to learn and to research, because I think often that gets forgotten. And I know I follow some really interesting people in my industry on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all sorts of different platforms. Is there anything specifically through social media that you would suggest students follow?
I personally only use LinkedIn. I don't use Facebook, or I used to have a Twitter account. I got rid of that, but you know, Twitter may be a good thing. A lot of industry professionals do put on their projects that they're carrying out. So it might be interesting to keep up to date with certain firms, local firms. In terms of LinkedIn, again, I use that just to build my network, you know, who's who in the industry. So it may be good to set yourself a profile, definitely, and look at the different firms. You can follow different companies on LinkedIn, and again, to see what's up to date and see what they're working on.
And start maybe by following your company.
Definitely.
So I'll make sure I put the link to that at the end, because it's a little bit like with Facebook. If you follow, so the students understand, if you follow a company, it's the company is producing information rather than an individual. So you could link with Grant, but then that's much more of a professional relationship. But if you're following a business, you can follow as many companies as you like. Yeah. And as you say, because it's quite a visual business that you're in, you know, photos get posted and images get posted, so you can start to see and make sense of what you do.
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. Grant, well, I know you're really busy today, and it's really lovely to have had your time and to see you in your office.
Yeah, back in there.
Fabulous. Is there anything else you'd like to say before you go off to your next meeting?
I think we've covered most things, Becky, really. I think, you know, for people to get into the employment, it is tough, but you know, knuckle down and you'll get there. Definitely set yourself the short and long-term goals, and review them regularly. They may change and the pathway may change, but yeah, have hope.
Yeah, and don't be afraid if the path changes. I think that's really key, isn't it? Because life does not go in a straight line. So thank you so much, Grant, for your time. And I'm sure young people, you will see Grant in the academy at some point in the future when we can all get back there and start working together again. Thank you, Grant.
That's it. Superb.